My husband's cousin almost got our daughter killed, and he says, "Don't call the cops, Christina's just 19, you want to ruin her life?" He said she didn't mean it and that he's tired of my unforgiving nature. He even said if I kept causing trouble, we should get divorced, and that I shouldn't expect to see the kids anymore. He's this hotshot young doctor, using marriage and kids to manipulate a powerless nurse like me. It's ridiculous because he doesn't even know that his proud social status is actually because of me. I decisively had the director fire him and got his entire family jailed. So today marks my second month back at work after maternity leave. The job demands intense focus and long hours standing. It's exhausting. Then I rush home to nurse 2 kids, and by day's end, I'm wiped out. Mary puts the kids to bed, and I return to the master bedroom to find my husband, William, waiting for me. He props up the pillows for me to rest against the headboard while he sits at the foot of the bed, massaging my legs. From the way he's acting, I know what's coming. And sure enough, he brings up an old topic: if we don't decide soon, that house next door will be snatched up by someone else. I can't help but frown. William and I have been married for 2 years. After buying a car outright, we have less than $600K in savings. Money's tight, so we still live in the old house in my dad's name. And now he wants to spend money on his cousin's place before securing a house for our family of 4. William, I've said it before, if Christina wants property before marriage, I'm all for it. But she's always going back home eventually. Do we really need to buy here? She doesn't even have a few grand saved. Mandy, you're so heartless with those words. Christina's my uncle's only daughter. He passed away early, her mom remarried and left, so she's practically my little sister, growing up with us. My real sister gave up her job to take care of your kids, and now she wants her own place. Once she's done looking after Coco and Timmy, she'd live in that nearby complex, not bothering us and staying close to her brother and aunt. This is all she's asking for, and you're offended by it? I mean, I'm willing to buy her a house as part of her dowry. You're dismissing it because you look down on Christina for not going to college, not having a stable job, and being a small-town girl, right? I'm trying to reason with him, but to him, I'm the villain. I didn't want to argue, but this time, I'm not backing down. William, did you forget why I agreed to let your mom and Christina take care of the kids? Yes, I don't have a mom to help me out, but remember, my aunt arranged for the best postpartum center and nanny already, and my dad was willing to cover all expenses. Mary insisted no nanny would care more than a grandma. Watching her read parenting books with reading glasses late in my pregnancy, I caved and let her come over despite confusion from my dad and aunt. Mary couldn't handle 2 kids a week in, so I suggested a professional nanny to help. Then you said Christina, a laid-off kindergarten teacher, could take care of Coco and Timmy in the meantime, and I agreed. I've been considerate of you and Mary. How about considering my feelings? Christina wanted my jewelry, and I gave it to her, but we're talking a house here, William. Do I have to agree just because you want it? Stop acting like I owe your family a debt. William's face changed instantly. He shoved my leg aside with irritation, raised a grim face, and said, "Does your family have some money to let you act rich, picking fancy postpartum centers and nannies? Your stepmom was all talk, you think she meant it? Those fake designer items, only a kid like Christina would even play with them. Nearly 30, and giving away a knockoff worth mentioning? Embarrassing. Mandy, let me tell you, if I want to pull this money, you have no say. Your paycheck barely covers anything. You and the kids depend on me, so if you keep wanting to live the good life, better keep quiet." Hearing that, all my tears from feeling wronged disappeared instantly. This was the first time calm William snapped at me in 3 years. His family was his Achilles heel, and if I dared touch it, he'd burn me to ashes. I had nothing to say to him. Seeing my silence, William seemed sure he'd settled the matter, soon snoring with his back to me. I laid there, restless. Tossing and turning, I got up to quietly store a bag of milk in the fridge, then lay back in bed. I glanced at my phone under the pillow, 4 a.m. I decided not to sleep, staring blankly at the ceiling. Just when I started to drift, the bedroom door quietly opened, the dim glow from the living room seeping through. Instinctively, I pretended to sleep. I heard soft footsteps approach William's side of the bed and stop silently. Peeking through the corner of my eye, I saw Christina, standing over the bed, her hair down, intensely watching her brother sleep. She wore a silk nightgown similar to one I rarely wore from my closet. The neckline was low, and with her stance, if William awoke, he'd see everything. Pondering her reason for entering our room, she moved slowly like a rusty puppet, straightening up, walking from the foot to my head of the bed. I jumped, quickly closing my eyes. In a few seconds, I felt her warm breath against my cheek and smelled a faint, delicate scent. It reminded me of a perfume I used occasionally back before I got pregnant. I had no idea what she was up to, but I couldn't stand her breathing so close to me. Pretending to be woken up by the noise of someone coming in, I mumbled, "Mary, are we out of that frozen milk? Hold on, I'll get up in a sec." But Christina didn't move. Just when I was about to sit up and ask her what she was doing, I heard William next to me mumbling, "Mary, I told you to just mix formula for Coco and Timmy at night. Why bother waking Mandy up?" Before he finished, Christina quickly left, gently shutting the door behind her. I wanted to talk to William about Christina's weird behavior, but when I turned, he was already asleep again. Today, William and I both had the early shift. During breakfast with the whole family, Mary made a point to send Christina out and bring up last night. "Mandy," she said, "did Christina scare you when she came into your room last night? This girl means no harm. She's been sleepwalking since middle school, sometimes wandering into her brother's room at night. You know she grew up living with William and me. William says he's her cousin, but really, he's more like a dad to her. She probably relies on him subconsciously. Don't think she's weird. She's had it rough." I mean, rationally, I could sort of accept that explanation. And about how she dressed last night, well, Christina's only 19. It's not uncommon for girls her age to mimic older women without realizing it. Still, something about it didn't sit right with me. Noticing my silence, William jokingly gave me a piece of meat and chimed in. The first time I found her silently standing by my bed in the middle of the night, I was almost yelling for help. But my wife's the one with guts, she's way braver than me. Exactly. Just act like you didn't see anything if it happens again, Mary added. Don't wake her up. It might frighten her. I nodded obediently and later texted my dad. I asked him to bring someone over while Mary and Christina were out with the kids this morning for vaccines, to install some hidden cameras. Dad didn't ask questions and agreed without hesitation. Mary handed me a bowl of soup. Staring at the oil drops and remembering how plain it tasted, I lost my appetite. William, trying to make amends, noticed my expression and grabbed the soup, reaching for the salt to pour it in. "Mary, Mandy's been having this for over a month. She usually has a simple diet. Having this rich soup first thing in the morning is probably too much. Can I have it instead?" "Mom, your cooking is great." Mary slapped his hand away, playfully scolding, "Eat? Can you produce milk if you eat this? Watch your cholesterol." Then pushed the soup back to me, insisting, "Mandy, your milk supply's already low, and you're feeding 2 babies. You have to drink this." William added salt. "It's good for you. Drink it." Seeing my struggle, she kept on, "You city girls are pampered and picky. When I gave birth to William, I barely had any rest before going back to work, not even getting a single egg. Now you have me helping, with soup, and you still show attitude." She went on, "You can't be selfish now that you're a mom. If my grandbabies go hungry, it's no good." William noticed my mood sour and quickly changed the topic, telling his mom, "See if the doctor can check Coco for digestion when you're at the hospital. She was bigger than her brother, Timmy, when born, but now she's smaller. If there's an absorption issue, we should deal with it early." A brief unnatural look flashed on Mary's face, but she quickly masked it, turning away as she cleared the dishes, saying, "Timmy's a boy, boys grow bigger than girls. Why make a fuss with doctors? It's just unnecessary stress. As usual, William drove me to the hospital. At a red light, he reached to pat my head, but I pulled away and told him to focus on driving. He chuckled awkwardly and said, "My mom talks like that, always has. She argues with neighbors over silly things. She doesn't mean to hurt or annoy you, it's just her lifelong habit. We, as her kids, just need to bear with it for a few years. It'll get better when Coco and Timmy start preschool." His words just irritated me further. So, no fixing things, you just want me to endure it? My mom's old. She came all the way to help with the kids and you. Shouldn't bend out of shape over a bad word or two, or how do we keep peace? I internally scoffed. It's pointless sharing with someone like William. They don't fix problems, they blame you for everything, even career setbacks, for not being the perfect wife, for not keeping the family perfect. No point arguing. I silently got out of the car at the hospital, not waiting by the window for a lingering goodbye like I used to. The next day, during lunch break, I ate takeout in the garden before heading back to the break room. Just then, I overheard someone inside gossiping about me. A new nurse was asking, "What kind of family does Mandy come from?" I invited her to eat at the cafeteria yesterday, but she said nah, she had already ordered takeout. When I got back from the cafeteria, I saw her eating from a Starry restaurant box. That meal's got to start at $200, right? Another person chimed in, "You get surprised seeing her eat from Starry once. If I told you she's been treating it like her private cafeteria for the past few years we've worked together, you'd be stunned." The new young nurse gasped, "I was thinking of taking my parents to Starry for a feast when I get my first paycheck, you know, to show them their daughter made it." Meanwhile, Mandy probably already feels tired of dining at the place we have to save up for. The one who said Mandy treats Starry like a cafeteria chuckled and said, "Mandy's so good looking." She latched onto William with that face of hers. Without him, how would a nurse on a fixed salary afford bling and lavish meals? Did you see the bag she had yesterday? My friend who works at the Hermes store tweeted about it. That bag was last month's new Hermes release. Not as pricey as a Birkin, but still Hermes. She's just lucky William is mild-mannered. If it were another guy, using his money on such luxuries would get her in trouble, you know? They'd probably give her a hard time for real. She's got 2 kids and still spends her husband's money without a care. Doesn't know how to take care of the household at all. Another girl who hadn't spoken up till then joined in, "It's normal you don't know William. He used to be the deputy director of neurology here but got poached by that fancy new private hospital under M Group last year. You won't get a chance to see him anymore. Though I think you're just as pretty as Mandy. If you're just a bit more proactive, next year it might be your turn to live the high life." They all laughed together. The newbie asked again, "Working at M Group's private hospital, William must be making bank, right? Mandy just had twins, so why isn't she staying home with them instead of competing with us back here?" The other 2 went silent for a few moments, a bit reluctant to admit that I'm competent and career-driven. They eventually replied, "What for, really? She's smart, keeps her options open. Just in case her charming husband ever decides to leave her and she can't afford Starry anymore, at least she's got the cafeteria here to fall back on, right?" The break room burst into laughter. Outside the door, I couldn't help but chuckle too. I've always been pretty laid back. True, the meals and some of the stuff I use aren't something my salary can cover, so if some people gossip about me as long as it's not to my face, I just pretend I didn't hear it. But someone's dumb enough to talk trash in the staff lounge about how I supposedly rely on William for everything. You really think you can get away with this? I'm about to give you a serious dose of envy. I called my dad. "Hey Dad, my coworkers loved the bag you brought when you came by to see Coco and Timmy. Can you have them send over a different color to the hospital this afternoon? Why don't I eat at the cafeteria? I inherited a severe peanut allergy from my dad. I can't just banish peanuts from there, right? For my safety, I stick to Starry's custom meals." My dad arrived within just half an hour with the store associates. He looked the part in a biker jacket, jeans, and boots, with aviators on indoors, no less. The security guy almost thought he was here to cause trouble and stopped him with a riot fork. The store associates coolly set some orange gift boxes on the bench next to me, gracefully presenting a tin gray handbag as if in a showroom setup. My co-workers, standing several meters away, looked on, completely blown away. The three co-workers, the gossip queens from the lounge, whispered among themselves, "Is this William?" "No way, William's barely in his 30s. This guy's older, not to mention William's much more low-key. A rich admirer, perhaps? Someone with money showing up with expensive gifts? Quite the looker too. Gotta admit, she knows how to work it. She just had kids. No way she was sneaking around while pregnant? Who knows? Look at her taking such posh gifts without a hitch, maybe those twins." Seeing them smirk at each other with shared understanding, I exchanged a knowing glance with my dad. The look in his eyes basically screamed, "Are people really this vile and shameless?" Knowing my dad, he was already mentally retreating to cope, fists clenched in frustration. The head nurse was making her way through the crowd. I tugged at my dad's jacket, signaling that she was here, urging him to keep calm. He was standing next to me, hands on his hips, taking deep breaths. He waved to the store associates, "All right, enough of a show, just swipe the card. Let's make it quick so these ladies can get back to work." John and the others casually began repacking the gift boxes, almost like good old British butlers, methodical and unhurried. My dad made a dismissive sound, spotting the head nurse. He slipped off his sunglasses, pocketed them, put on a charming smile, and walked over to shake hands with her. The head nurse broke into a genuine and warm smile, immediately remarking, "Peter, you're visiting your daughter?" Susan called to say Mandy was feeling weak post-delivery, but seeing her at work, there's nothing to worry about. Her work ethic and skills are top-notch. There isn't a soul in the department, young or old, who doesn't adore Mandy. Hearing praises for his wife and daughter, my dad's composed demeanor almost slipped into a proud grin. "Emily, you have a glow about you that only grows with all this life-saving work. How about that sweet talking, though?" Their banter exchanged a few compliments until her phone rang, and she had to attend to it shortly after. Before she could bid goodbye, my dad apologized. "I took you by surprise today, didn't mean to interrupt your work." He whipped out a Starry Restaurant VIP card from his wallet. "No dawdling, just accept it, take the team out for dinner sometime, I'll even get you a couple of good bottles of wine." The head nurse sure was in a rush, and since this was more like a favor, not a bribe, she figured she'd better accept it graciously. She marched off swiftly, passing by those subordinates who couldn't resist gossiping when they saw a leader. Feeling annoyed, she clapped her hands twice on the door of the break room. "You've all got nothing better to do after eating? What's the gossip here? Share it with me. Mandy's dad even invited you all to Starry Restaurant for dinner, but I guess you won't be eating out anymore. Just head home and feed yourselves. What are you standing there for? Scatter." The crowd dispersed like birds. The newbie with the thinnest skin turned red from head to toe, hearing the head nurse's sharp reprimand. Yet, she tentatively approached me, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mandy, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have talked bad about you behind your back, and I promise I won't do it again." Her two companions shot her dirty looks, rolled their eyes, and muttered, "What a piece of work, only respects the high and mighty." My dad was about to chase after them to reason with them, but I tugged on his arm and said to the newbie, "Realizing your mistake makes you better than most people. I observed you, and I believe you genuinely like your job and want to do it well. So letting baseless rumors ruin our collegial relationships and affect our work is putting the cart before the horse, don't you think?" After sending off the bright-eyed junior nurse who seemed a bit cheered up by the recognition, I turned to my dad and said, "I was impulsive, I shouldn't have spent that unnecessary money." My dad stylishly flicked his hair and said, "Honey, I earned the money myself, you can throw it around if you like. But your restaurant was only opened with Susan's financial help." His hand paused mid-air, and he lightly slapped the back of my head. Susan's willing to spend money on you. It's you who doesn't want to rely on her. Alright, quit teasing your old man. Now tell me, what exactly happened at William's place? Before I could start complaining, my dad's phone screen lit up. He glanced at it and smiled, saying, "Let me take this call from your Susan first." Seeing his love-struck demeanor, I chuckled too. But within seconds, his cheerful expression vanished. His face grew serious, and despite his attempts to control it, the tense jaw and knitted brows revealed his suppressed anger and worry. My heart sank, sensing this call was about me. After hanging up, he immediately grasped my hand, and that ominous feeling intensified. Coco's in trouble. Mary and Christina took her to M Group's hospital for treatment without telling you. Mandy, stay calm. I'll take you there right now. Susan's overseas and can't come back right away. She forwarded the phone number of M Group's hospital director to me and told me to watch out for his call. The director will contact us directly after knowing Coco's condition. Since my dad rode a motorcycle here, Lucas kindly lent us his car. Dad drove while I sat in the passenger seat, my mind blank. My house is only 5 minutes from the hospital I work at, but it took half an hour to drive to M Group's hospital. In Coco's critical condition, Mary and Christina bypassed my hospital, avoiding me altogether. And in the 2 hours since Coco was admitted, neither they nor William bothered to inform me about my child. Something strange is going on. What did they do to my daughter? While anxiously waiting for news, I started watching the video footage from the 3 cameras my dad had installed yesterday. Coco was fine when William and I left this morning, so it probably happened after we left. I fast-forwarded the footage to right after we left, moving the timeline quickly. Finally, I found a suspicious scene from the camera in the guest room. At 8 a.m., Coco was sleeping alone on the big bed in the guest room, kicking and quietly crying. Christina was doing her makeup at the vanity. William's mom, who kept saying Coco was easier to handle than Timmy and who claimed she loved Coco too much to let go, was holding Timmy on a single-seater sofa, watching him drink milk. Both of them completely ignored my daughter's presence. Christina, Timmy's getting bigger, and Mandy's milk won't be enough for him soon. You need to start taking those pills I bought you. Christina paused, her brow shaping, and asked, "Aunt, won't those pills be bad for me and Timmy? Do you think your aunt would recommend it if it were harmful? You need to be more committed. I'm telling you, building a bond with such young children takes spending all your time with them and personally feeding them. Mandy is Timmy's real mom, so it's natural he clings to her. But if you're not willing to make some sacrifices, how do you expect him to be closer to you?" By now, Timmy finished drinking, turned his head, and began crying with his sister. Mary finally noticed the granddaughter who had been crying, lightly patting Timmy's back while glaring at Coco on the bed. "Christina, go to the medicine cabinet and get a suppository for her. This little troublemaker is constantly constipated, and that lactulose doesn't work. I tell you, breast milk beats formula, but you didn't believe me. Look at our Timmy, drinking only breast milk, and he doesn't have all his sister's issues." Obediently, Christina put down the half-applied lipstick, picked up Coco, and left the guest room, heading toward the kitchen. She looked back to ensure Mary was busy playing with Timmy and not paying attention, then carried Coco into the bathroom with a bottle filled with some brownish liquid. With the kitchen and bathroom unwired, I couldn't see what she did, only hearing Coco choking and crying sporadically. Meanwhile, Mary continued smiling and playing with Timmy, ignoring the commotion in the bathroom. 15 minutes later, Christina put Coco, who was too weak to even cry, back in bed. She had a disgusted look on her face as she wiped her hands repeatedly with disinfectant wipes, then continued to apply makeup in the mirror. Behind our backs, this aunt-niece duo treated my 2 children differently, tormenting my daughter and scheming to drive a wedge between me and Timmy. My dad kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror. "Mandy, you look awful. You okay?" "I'm fine, Dad. Just focus on driving. We'll talk when we get to the hospital." I told myself to stay calm. "Mandy, anger only clouds your mind. You need to calm down to help Coco." I kept adjusting my breathing, trying to cool down my intense hatred. Then I continued watching the video. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. The dean was calling. My heart clenched instantly. With trembling hands, I answered and put it on speaker. Peter, Mandy. Coco's out of danger now. Don't worry, stay safe on the road. I'll explain the situation to you. The dean said Coco was in a coma when she arrived at the ER. Yet, Mary claimed Coco's issue was minor, just some common diarrhea. She said Coco had been conscious on the way to the hospital. When the doctors saw Coco's sunken eyes, blue lips, and extremities, they initially diagnosed dehydration and electrolyte imbalance due to severe diarrhea, leading to shock. They quickly started for fluid replacement. When asked about the condition, Mary and the suddenly present Christina deflected, insisting Coco had habitual diarrhea, this time just worse. Because the doctor suspected their story wasn't truthful, they expedited lab tests. Just a bit ago, Coco woke up, and her condition was somewhat stable. I felt relieved, thanked the dean with misty eyes over and over. If the dean hadn't coincidentally seen William and the two women arguing at the ER, if he hadn't noticed something was off, I'd still be clueless about my daughter's emergency like a fool, completely in the dark because of William's family. Once the call ended, the video resumed. I skipped ahead, trying to figure out what Christina gave Coco to help the doctors treat her fast. At 9 a.m., Christina and Mary brought Timmy into my and William's master bedroom. Christina casually opened my closet, picking out clothes for herself. Meanwhile, my daughter was laying on the bed, her little face flushed and in discomfort. Christina was caught up admiring her reflection, while Mary was gently singing a lullaby to Timmy who was sleeping in her arms. Once Christina was dressed, she picked up a watch and tried it on. Mandy is all about appearances. I know this brand. It's Cartier. A real one would cost tens of thousands. She spent money on a knockoff instead of getting a gold chain that would hold value. Such a foolish woman, wasting William's money to assemble all this, yet she still looks so cheap. Come on, girl. You've tried on one set after another. It's never ending, is it? It's almost 10. Hurry up. The kid's crying again. Feed her, change her diaper, and get out quickly. The sooner you leave, the sooner you're back. Don't let Mandy catch on. Dressed and ready, Christina took Coco to the bathroom. She returned 10 minutes later, tossing Coco back on the bed like she was burning hot. She said a quick goodbye to Mary and left with her bag. At 10:30 a.m., Mary strapped Timmy to her back and went to the kitchen to make lunch. By 11 a.m., Mary held her nose and leaned over to check on Coco. She suddenly lifted Coco's legs and rudely removed her diaper. Coco, eyes closed and limp, let her do as she pleased. Mary cursed at the stained diaper, not bothering to clean Coco up. She just put on a new one. Opening a packet of oral rehydration salts, she pinched Coco's cheeks, forcing it down. At 11:20 a.m., Mary finished her meal and checked on Coco again. Then, she pulled out her phone to make a call. Christina, tell me honestly. What on earth did you do to Coco? Don't play dumb. This kid couldn't have gotten this bad out of nowhere. You reckless girl. If you ruin things with Mandy now, our whole plan goes out the window. Cut the crap, I'm taking them to your brother. Get over there. Now. And where did you stash that diet tea? You pull a stunt like this and don't even cover your tracks. Ridiculous. She hung up, grabbed a flashy box from the kitchen, put both kids in the stroller, and rushed out, slamming the door behind her. I quickly uploaded a picture of that box to an image recognition app. The results popped up instantly. It was a sketchy weight loss tea from a Chinese brand. I found its ingredients list online, and the main one was a strong natural laxative. We often prescribe this herb with mannitol for colonoscopy prep, which cleans out the intestines thoroughly within hours. But many patients complain of severe abdominal pain afterwards. No wonder my daughter's face was flushed, and she had no strength to even cry. I felt dizzy momentarily, but pushed through to send the product name and ingredients list to the dean. The car finally stopped smoothly. We arrived. Two middle-aged men, waiting eagerly, waved at us through the windshield. I motioned for Dad to let them in. William's mom was dead set on protecting Christina. So, did William know about his mom and cousin's schemes? Once the dean and David were settled in the car, we quickly went over the facts and evidence we had. Following David's professional advice, we agreed on the next course of action. The dean then brought in a nurse about my age to take my dad and me to Coco's hospital room. When we walked in, Christina was holding Timmy and Mary had a cup of tea. They sat on the couch watching TV, while Coco's bed was empty. The moment those two women saw me, they jumped up, startled. Christina looked panicked and quickly pulled out her phone to make a call. Mary barely managed to calm down and got the first word in, "Mandy, what are you doing here?" I glanced at them coldly, said nothing, and walked past them to check on Coco. Coco had a patch of her thick baby hair shaved off, and 4 in her scalp, continuously keeping her hydrated. Tears fell on the sheets as I gently tucked Coco in. My father's eyes were bloodshot, veins bulging on the back of his hands resting at the bedside. We locked eyes, and in each other's gaze, we saw intense hatred. I shook my head at him slightly, signaling him to hold his temper for now. The nurse who had led us there saw us silent and spoke up to Mary. "What's the big deal with a mom visiting her hospitalized child? And what's your business, huh? You're just a nurse, sticking your nose into a patient's family affairs?" I stepped forward, blocking the nurse behind me, and slapped Mary's finger pointing at the nurse's face away. "What's her business? If I didn't have a friend working here, were you planning to wait until my kid was discharged to inform me?" Mary was furious at my backtalk, eyes wide open and drawn-on eyebrows flying aggressively. She wanted to argue, but I cut her off. "Don't disturb the kid's rest, let's talk outside." I took Timmy from Christina's arms and handed him to the nurse. "Sophia, could you please stay in the room and watch the 2 kids for me?" I led the way out of the room, just in time to bump into a panting William arriving. He exchanged a glance with his mom and cousin, gave a flattering smile to my dad, then hurriedly took my hand, comforting, "Mandy, it's going to be okay. Coco's going to be okay. Mom and Christina rushed her here in time, just a couple more days of fluids and she'll be fine." A sense of absurdity washed over me, and I couldn't help but smile ironically. My daughter's biological father, not only wasn't around when she was critically ill, but his first words upon seeing me were to excuse the very people who nearly cost her her life. I shook his hand off, striding towards the fire exit with my dad. Mary, with no regard, was shouting curses behind me. William and Christina acted deaf, letting her spew filth unchecked. Until a parent standing in the hallway reviewing lab results shouted irritably, "If you're going to curse, at least pick a place. If you don't clean up your language, I'll call security to kick you out." Mary instantly shut up, while William kept apologizing on her behalf. I opened the door to the fire exit and told the 3 of them, "Get in." They entered the stairwell one by one, and William reluctantly closed the door. "Mandy, your attitude towards Aunt today was really disrespectful." Before I could call Christina out, she put on a pitiful face like she was the victim. I stepped forward, grabbed Christina's neatly styled curls, forcing her to look up at me. Then, using all the strength I had, I slapped her face repeatedly, looking down at her disheveled face, asking, "Christina, I give you $6,000 a month from my salary to watch my kids, and this is how you do it? When you worked at the kindergarten, did you dare to only care about your vanity, letting students pass out from neglect before sending them to the hospital?" The loud slaps echoed in the stairwell, and I flicked my hand, releasing the sobbing Christina like she was trash. She held her face, crawling behind William, clutching his arm, crying out "cousin" in a grave, bleeding heart way. I moved faster than they could react. William reflexively turned his head, worriedly looking at his cousin. His handsome face showed undisguised shock and pity. Mary, having fought countless times before, immediately came at me with a distorted face, trying to get even for her niece. My father clamped down on Mary's flailing arm, forcefully pushing her back onto William. I told her, "Ma'am, if you lay a finger on me, and I don't make sure William can't work in M Group anymore. Do you dare risk your son's future?" Mary slapped her thigh lamentingly, yelling at William, "Your wife and father-in-law are bullying me and your cousin for no reason. Are you dead, just standing there watching?" Hearing his mom, William bit his lip, glanced at my dad, then turned his cold and angry eyes toward me, saying, "The kid's got diarrhea because of a vaccine side effect. Mom and Christina brought her to the hospital immediately. It's you refusing to stay home full-time as a mom. They were just helping. Now the kid's got an issue, and you take it out on Christina? Are you crazy?" With those words, our worst fears were confirmed. He knew what his cousin did to our daughter, yet he likely never blamed Christina. Otherwise, how could she sit so comfortably in Coco's hospital room watching TV? Moreover, William probably colluded with the lab staff to say Coco's diarrhea was from a vaccine, not because of any Senna. He wanted to cover for Christina completely. I not only mistakenly shared a bed with a beast for 3 years, I even brought a wolf into my home, dragging my son and daughter into their family schemes. The heat from my body felt drained away by the fact I didn't want to acknowledge, and I heard my teeth clattering uncontrollably. This play, I'm about to drop the act. Dad approached me, supporting me, and asked in my place, "If it's vaccine-induced diarrhea, how do you explain not bringing Coco to Mandy's hospital or even daring to notify us?" Mary looked like she was on the verge of a breakdown. With trembling hands, she pointed at us and defended herself. "Coco's got such a tiny heart, she cries non-stop even when getting a shot. How can she recover in a noisy place?" I didn't tell Mandy right away because I was worried she'd panic and something might happen on the way. "We would call you as soon as things settle down. Don't think the worst of people." Tears welled up in my eyes, but it wasn't disappointment or feeling wronged, it was pure hatred. I lowered my eyes to hide my anger, pulled out my phone, and mumbled to myself, "No way. I'm calling the cops. I want the police to find out why Coco came so close to death." The 3 next to me couldn't believe it, staring with wide eyes. Christina's legs gave out, and she sat on the floor, clinging to the doorknob. William and his mom tried to grab my phone, but they were too weak together to move my dad an inch. Seeing that I had unlocked my screen and started dialing, William spoke rapidly, "Christina didn't mean it, and you already slapped her face swollen. Isn't that enough? Do you really need our mom and Christina to kneel and apologize to you? Mandy, I can't stand your unreasonable behavior." Unfazed, I raised the phone to my ear. He screamed hysterically, "Don't call the cops. Christina is only 19. Do you want to ruin her? You're actually insane. Fine, have it your way, I'll divorce you. You'll never see the kids again." Mary, blocked by my dad, was clawing at the air, yelling crazily, "You peaked the day you used your looks to marry William. Now you're just damaged goods, tossed aside by us, and still thinking some good man will take you in?" My dad was getting red in the ears from their relentless insults. Worrying about his health, I decided to ease off, putting on a defeated look and lowering my phone. I pushed past William at the door to the emergency exit, wiped my tears in silence, and made my way to Coco's room. At the room's entrance, I dashed away hastily, telling my dad, "Dad, don't let them in. I don't want to see them." Mary, like a triumphant rooster, followed me, yelling, "You'll only be sorry if William leaves you. You got the guts to face me? I'll skin you alive." The hospital director pretended to pass by and scolded William, "Dr. William, this is a hospital, not the farmer's market. Keep your family in check, or you'll disturb the patients." Startled, William and his mom nodded and apologized to the director. As the director walked away, William shot me a vicious glare through the room's window, treated my dad like he was invisible, and left with his mom and Christina. Trying to comfort the concerned nurse, Sophia, I smiled, while leaning against a wall and texting David, the lawyer. "Uncle David, include William too, please." "Thanks. No worries. Give me 2 days. I took Timmy from Sophia's arms, holding him with one hand and Coco's cold little hand with the other. William, I gave you a chance. My dad came in, saying William took his mom and cousin to his office, maybe to plot something. I told him it's okay, I'm on top of things. Those 3 are as thick as thieves, probably just planning how to bring me down. Restless and furious, my dad started pacing, clutching his phone tightly, pressing its screen hard. I had no idea what he was doing. Connecting the dots between Christina's strange sleepwalking, Mary's cryptic mentions of plans, and William's excessive protection of Christina, a light bulb went off. This family had more twisted plans against me. I had a hunch I'd find some answers in last night's security footage. Seeing my dad so mad at what they did to Coco scared me. It could give him a stroke, or worse, he'd take it out on William physically. Neither outcome was worth it. With Susan's people helping, I planned to keep Dad out of it as much as possible. I sent him off to call Susan and make some formula for the kids. Watching him leave the room, I put on my headphones and clicked on last night's surveillance video. At 3 a.m., Christina sneaked into the master bedroom, similar to when I caught her before. She leaned in close to William. This time, William woke up quickly. His right hand gently caressed Christina's face before pulling her closer to kiss her. Christina playfully dodged. She stepped back a couple of paces, sensuously slid off her nightgown strap. William sat up, scanning her up and down before turning to check on me, making sure I was asleep. Then they both left the master bedroom one after the other. Even though I expected it, seeing that made my throat tighten. I nearly threw up in the hospital room. Not even a day after I caught Christina acting weird, and with William backing me up by warning her off, they couldn't hold back. By the next night, they were at it again, craving some twisted thrill. Christina was even wearing my nightgown, just a different one than before. Just how shameless and bold could these two get? No wonder Mary freaked out when I suggested installing cameras in the house to watch over the kids when I first started working at the hospital again. What did she say back then? Mandy, I've only ever heard of people installing monitors to keep an eye on nannies, not on their family members. You're treating your mom and Christina like strangers. Now I get it. Mary secretly mistreating my daughter, Christina stealing, and William cheating, with his own cousin, no less. Their family's done all sorts of shady stuff, so how could they act like they have a clear conscience? Those scoundrels showed up at 5 p.m., right when the doctor was doing rounds. William led the way, placing 2 hot food containers on the bedside cabinet as if nothing had happened hours earlier. He enthusiastically invited my dad and me to eat. Dad, Mandy, you must be hungry. Christina went home just to cook this for you. Eat while it's hot. Then he motioned for Christina to come forward. Christina had already wiped off her makeup and changed into simple sweats, with her hair tied up to show off her bruised, swollen face for everyone to see. I was wrong. I really didn't know diarrhea could be this dangerous. Poor Coco suffered so much because of my negligence. It was all my fault. She said this as she prepared to kneel. The whole William family probably expected me to help her up, but I just sat there and let her kneel stiffly before me. The doctor and his students all looked at me with surprised and judgmental eyes. Look at Christina's performance. It's as if she's playing the role of some naive and honest person, making me look like a harsh and unforgiving shrew. Too bad she can act, but she can't tolerate. Both my dad and I caught the fleeting look of humiliation and resentment on her face as she knelt. William and his mom rushed to help her up. Mary took a deep breath, calming her raised eyebrows, and forced a smile, speaking softly. Mandy, we're not sophisticated, and kids from the countryside are tough. It was truly an oversight, not intentional. We're Coco's real grandma and aunt, who would willingly harm her. I still didn't say a word. William let go of Christina, opened the food containers, and handed them to my dad and me. Come on, we're family. Christina already knelt to apologize. Let this be over. Let's eat. I stared into his eyes, squeezing out a couple of tears, and asked, "William, this won't happen again, right? I really can't take it if it happens a second time." "Absolutely not. We've been worried sick with Coco in the hospital. Do you think we'd let it happen again?" William probably believes that training someone involves a mix of punishment and reward. He figured an apology and a promise would be enough to placate me. But he didn't even realize that from the moment he walked in, his eyes never landed on the daughter he claimed to care about. He took my feigned softening to mean he could feed me. But then my dad suddenly got mad. He stood up and slapped the spoon out of William's hand, pointing at him and shouting, "Is this how your family apologizes? The kid almost died, and you think her kneeling solves it? As if her knees are worth anything. I'm telling you, her dignity means nothing to me." "What's in the food? Cooked in peanut oil, maybe? Trying to harm Mandy too?" I quickly stopped him from continuing to vent on my behalf, pretending to be overwhelmed by love. I said to William, "Don't mind my dad, I trust you. Leave the food here, we'll eat it when we're hungry later." Seeing relief wash over those three faces across the room, I added, "Coco going through this is partly my fault too. I wasn't watching her well. I've already asked my boss for time off. My dad and I will take turns staying with her for the next few days." Mary realized I wasn't going to pursue what her niece did further, and switched back to a more relaxed attitude, graciously allowing me to stay at the hospital, then turned to pick up Timmy from the bassinet. I restrained myself from breaking both her arms and looked pleadingly at William. "Why don't you all go home and rest, and leave Timmy here to keep his sister company, okay?" After hesitating for a couple of seconds, William nodded, led his mom and sister out, leaving without a trace of attachment to Coco. "Mandy, why are you being so nice after things got ugly? It's so frustrating." "Yeah, things sure have gotten ugly, but what's William up to with this whole charade? Isn't he confident that he can control me with marriage and kids? For someone so protective of his family, why isn't he confronting me after I embarrassed his mom and sister? Instead, he's trying to appease me. This isn't his usual behavior. Did the hospital colleagues already leak to him that my dad owns Starry Restaurant? Anyway, I was planning to pretend to fall for their act, let them think they got away easily, and then surprise them later. If they want to extend a hand, it just makes my job easier. While William's family locked themselves in his office to brood, I had someone plant a listening device in his car with my spare car key. Not long after they left Coco's hospital room, after the car doors slammed shut, I heard Mary start ranting. "I've never been so humiliated in my life. William, were you possessed when you married her? Did you marry such a fierce woman to punish your mom? Earlier, when Christina and I were speaking to her humbly, did she even acknowledge us? The way she acts, give her a sliver of kindness, and she forgets her place. I can't take this anymore. Divorce. Right now. Get your lawyer friend to help you out." I thought I was being cordial, but Mary wasn't satisfied, sounding like she was about to explode. Christina stayed silent, but I could hear her sobbing dramatically. William sighed heavily and said, "Mom, I've said it before. We can't talk about divorce until Coco and Timmy are at least 2 years old. Otherwise, if she files in court, it's likely she'll get full custody of both kids." Mandy's attitude was a bit cold, but didn't she accept Christina's apology? And when her dad was taking it out on us, she helped stop him, right? You promised in my office, and now you're bringing it up again. If you can't handle this, seriously, do you still want 2 kids? Christina, it's my bad today. I should have had your back. I let you down. Just hang in there. A year or so will fly by, and then I'll make it up to you with interest. Christina choked up. For a future with you and the kids, this is nothing. Even if she wants me to bow down to her, I'd do it willingly. Mary's really concerned about Coco and Timmy's custody. William used this to talk her around. After taking a couple of minutes to calm down, she didn't ask for her son to get a divorce anymore. Instead, she comforted her niece. "Christina, listen to your brother, just endure it for now. Don't worry, as long as I'm around, your brother won't dare wrong you. William, pull over. I'm going to the store to buy groceries. We've had a rough day, let's at least have a good dinner tonight. After Mary got out, the car was silent. Hearing the mechanical noise through my headphones, I finally understood why William was so nice today, why he always comforted me during clashes with his mom, saying things would be better when the kids went to kindergarten. Because he doesn't dare have kids with his cousin. They have to keep me calm until the kids are over 2 years old so that when the time comes, they can fight for custody smoothly. They plan for my kids to carry on their lineage, take care of them in old age. In their plan, once the kids are in kindergarten, I'd be out, so why worry about obnoxious in-law issues? Christina suddenly cut through the silence. What if we don't have Coco? Look at Mandy, if we take even one kid away, she might go nuts. Could we trade the house we're living in now for Coco's custody, huh? William didn't say a word. Come on, how about it? We can always have more kids. William finally gave in, I'll think about it. Also, stop bringing this up. Take it slow, wait until you're pregnant, so mom has no choice, you hear me? Christina reluctantly agreed in a drawn-out tone. Hearing this, I had new doubts. As a PhD in medicine, William was planning to have a kid with his cousin without thinking of health risks. He's worried more about his mom's reaction? Does that even make sense? If they plan to have their own kids, why drag me and Coco, Timmy into this mess? Before I could figure it out, Mary came back with groceries. William, I've been thinking. You need to get Mandy to agree for you to buy Christina a house. Then get the gifting contract notarized quickly. Otherwise, all that hard-earned money would be split in a divorce. I can't stand that thought. William sounded troubled. Mom, buying a house now won't work. Mandy's already unhappy, and now with Coco hospitalized because of Christina, it's hard to imagine any compromise. I'll figure out another way to move the money, don't worry. Mary sneakily whispered, tell me honestly, don't you have any savings? You really let Mandy handle all your money? Suddenly, Christina cut in, awkwardly suggesting swapping my dad's house for Coco's custody, a topic William just told her off about. She said it to change the subject. Christina and William must be up to something. William likely has some secret money he hides from even his mom. What? Sacrifice family lineage for money? You trying to cut off our family line or what? Christina played it soft, acting cute to apologize, saying she just had a fleeting, silly thought. Honestly, the whole family's absurd, every single one of them. Mary claimed to be a naive country bumpkin to me, yet behind my back, she's all shrewd, using methods to hide marital assets and scheming to use me as a free surrogate. She knows it all. If I really were a backgroundless, meek little nurse, maybe after finding out I'm having twins, I'd quit my job to focus on the pregnancy and raising kids. When William filed for divorce, after I'd been out of work for over 2 years with kids now over 2, who'd get custody? His well-off, career-oriented father or an unemployed mother struggling to make ends meet? It's obvious. William and Christina are playing me, planning to snag a house in the divorce too. Their cruelty is beyond what I imagined. My phone pinged, a notification from David, the lawyer. He uploaded some files in the group chat dedicated to dealing with this matter. His team used Christina's financial records and daily activities as a starting point, gathering loads of info. Christina dropped out of high school last year and moved to our city. William had been withdrawing money from our account, saying it was for his mom's expenses and medical bills, but most of it went to Christina. Christina never got a job, spent her time hanging around card rooms. The story about her working as a preschool teacher back home was entirely made up by William. David, the lawyer, managed to get into the card club that Christina frequents. He unearthed a whole bunch of evidence tying her and William to the case. After going through a lengthy series of documents and photos, I shared my suspicions with David. David replied, "It's definitely possible. I'll dig deeper along those lines." Soon after, Susan reached out to David, saying, "Peter, get the best divorce lawyer from your firm on this. Before long, Susan called me. I glanced at my dad, who was still seriously studying the materials, and took my phone into the bathroom, locking the door. I quietly filled Susan in on William's family's grand scheme. She laughed coldly at the other end of the line. "Mandy, what's your plan?" she asked. I answered, "I'm going to make William pay for the divorce as the at-fault party and get him and Christina locked up. But that's not nearly enough. I'm taking the whole family down, step by step, till they're completely ruined." The head nurse warned me there was talk among colleagues about my family. The news was spreading through the hospital. I asked, "Are they saying anything about Susan?" "Don't worry," she replied. "Only the dean and I know about your connection to Susan here. At most, they'll just gossip about you and your dad." "Perfect," I said. "Let them talk. Better if it reaches William's ears." The head nurse caught on right away to what I meant. Meanwhile, William's family was getting ready to sleep. Christina had followed William into the master bedroom and comfortably lay down on my side of the bed. But before they could do anything, William's phone started buzzing like crazy. The head nurse stirred the pot, making rumors a solid reality. William's former colleagues at our hospital couldn't wait to mock him. I watched him hang up the phone, confused, playing with it absent-mindedly. All the while, Christina clung to his arm, anxiously asking questions, which he ignored. Minutes later, he held up his phone, didn't even bother putting on his slippers, and rushed barefoot to drag his mother up. The three of them sat on the living room couch as William recounting the hospital rumors frantically. Christina looked baffled while Mary frowned deeply, questioning, "Are you kidding? Isn't her dad just a cook? We've been to that place he works, it's a regular diner, nothing like that starry restaurant. Sounds to me like your old colleagues are just jealous of your prospects and are making fun of you." William's face mixed with anger and triumph, handed his phone to his mom. "Mom, it's true. I checked. Look, the legal person of the catering company that owns the Starry restaurant is my father-in-law. It's in black and white, it can't be wrong." Mandy really kept me in the dark. Mary held the phone back, checked it with her reading glasses, and after confirming, she slapped the couch, cursing, "City folks are so cunning. Those father and daughter have been treating you like a rube." The dowry was just $200,000, the house was older than Mandy, and that diner was likely rented for show. Who could guess how much they're worth? Christina, pale-faced, chimed in, could she have already learned the real cause of Coco's condition? William brushed off the notion, "No way. She's mad they didn't watch the kid well and didn't tell her in time. She wouldn't know the truth. Otherwise, with her temper, would we have left the hospital intact? Hurt her kid, and she'll come for your life." Mary pinched Christina hard a few times, feeling scared. Luckily, they're just in the dining business, probably rich but not powerful and definitely not buddied up with Susan. Or we, including William, would have been dragged down by you. Are you afraid now? Can you not let your impulsiveness get the best of you? If you can't, you may as well head back home. Christina hunched under her aunt's pinches, not daring to cry, teary-eyed, looking at William. William didn't spare her a glance and instructed Mary, "I'll have another word with the lab doctor. As long as he keeps quiet, Mandy won't find out. Mom, from now on, let's just stay low and try not to upset her." "All right, William. And let me give you some advice," Mary told him. "Swallow your grievances and feign ignorance for now. But pay more attention to Mandy and her two sons. Mandy truly loves you, and kids are locks on a woman's neck. As long as life isn't unbearable, those chains keep her tied to you. Let me serve her well for you. When her father's not around, that family business." They exchanged knowing smiles filled with expectation. "By the way, Mandy loves my desserts," Mary hummed a tune as she headed to the kitchen. "I'll make some red bean paste now so I can whip up something for her to take to the hospital tomorrow morning." Treated like an invisible person, Christina saw the kitchen door close, grabbed her brother wanting to return to the master bedroom. William halted at the door, "Don't go into Mandy's room or touch her stuff anymore. Whatever you want to say, can be said here." His words panicked Christina, and she tiptoed to meet William's eyes, tentatively asking, "Are you still going to divorce her?" William slightly turned away to avoid her gaze, not answering immediately. He hesitated. No matter how priceless true love is, it's nothing compared to cold hard cash within arm's reach. He's waiting to inherit from my family. If divorced, how would he? You can't leave me. When I was 14, my mom, who had been gone for 10 years, came back to take me with her. She was too scared that someday Aunt would find out the truth and take my life. But I love you, I can't bear to leave. Even if I die, I want to die next to you. William quickly covered Christina's mouth, cutting off her desperate plea. He hissed softly, "You dare say that at home? If Mom hears, you're done for." William seemed to soften. He led the tearful Christina into the master bedroom, holding her close and whispering comfort in her ear. I exited the monitoring room, holding my forehead as I laughed. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Mary kept saying she'd protect Christina forever. William promised to make things right for her. But as soon as they found out my dad had a restaurant, they immediately started figuring out how to charm me and find a reason to kick Christina out. I thought their family was so strong and dear to each other that it'd be hard to drive a wedge between them. But look at Christina's helpless expression. Their cracks and conflicts were so easily created. William probably would never believe that neither my dad nor I have ever tried to trick or test anyone. My dad really did support me through school and my wedding with his little restaurant. After I got married, he reconnected with his high school friend, Susan. Their story is too long to explain. Anyway, my dad quickly became the husband of a wealthy family and took me along for a better life. I'm really grateful. Grateful that, to protect my dad's fragile pride and not to cause trouble for their marriage, I never flaunted it in public. William's family only knows I have a new stepmom, but they don't know who she is. Otherwise, with William's family willing to betray anyone for money, I'd have no idea how long I'd be fooled by their fake affection. The next morning, once I confirmed William and the others were out, I went home. I handed over what I collected from home to David's assistant and asked for a favor: find some rough-looking guys to pretend as casino enforcers and press Christina for debts when she's alone. The assistant got what I meant and left. By the time I got back to the hospital, William's family was already in the ward. Mary was suggesting my dad take a break and rest at home. My dad coldly refused, "No need. I don't feel comfortable leaving the kids with you." William almost lost his smile but managed to pull himself together after a look from his mom. He eagerly greeted me, "Mandy, where have you been so early? Come eat the dessert Mom made specially. It's a tricky thing to make, takes skill." I let him pull me to a seat. Christina brought over a plate of beautifully arranged fruit. I had no appetite for anything they'd touched, I just watched coldly as they tried their best to impress me. When Mary mentioned going home to cook, I said plainly, "No need. Starry Restaurant will deliver. No one's a fool." If I pretended not to know about our family's wealth now, I'd be overdoing it. Mary awkwardly added, "Right, my cooking can't compare with Starry's chefs. Today, I'll also enjoy some fine dining thanks to you and your dad." The meal included a pot of seafood porridge. Christina was bustling around. When she passed me a full bowl, I accidentally knocked it over, spilling hot porridge on her fair hand. She flinched, blowing on her hand in pain. William instinctively jumped up, ready to scold me but bit his tongue, redirecting his anger at Christina. "How could you be so careless? Stop waving your hand around and rinse it with cold water. Clean up this mess after you fix your hand. Aren't you grown? Still so clumsy." With red eyes, Christina silently held her hand and rushed off. She soon returned with her scald treated, silently cleaned the mess, and stood by like a servant at the table. My dad threw his chopsticks, slamming the table. "Can we eat in peace or not?" I spoke gently, "Christina, it was my fault. Sorry for the slip. Sit down and eat. Don't be so distant." I acted as if my anger at Christina was finally spent. Joining in the light conversation, William tried to keep going, making the atmosphere seemingly harmonious. On the third night, when Dad wasn't there for dinner, Christina hesitated but mentioned the nearby apartment. "Mandy, the landlord called my brother. Someone's ready to sign the lease. We have 1 day to decide, or we'll miss out." Christina ignored Mary and William's signals, finishing what she had to say. "It's not that she's clueless, she just desperately needs money. Because she secretly gambled away the dirty money William put in her name, and owes over 400 grand to the casino. Terrified after being threatened by the men David's assistant sent, she's in a rush to get money from me to pay the debt." William quickly added, "Mandy, living in Dad's house since the wedding feels off. Let's secure that place, put the kids' names on the deed, and move when it's ready. What do you think?" He was eager to show loyalty, not mentioning the investment for his cousin. Seeing my cold response, he defended himself. "I know you don't lack money and might not care for such an old place, but it's my heart, as a dad, for our kids. It's the best within my means." I looked at Christina's pale, desperate face and calmly refused. "Coco's still in the hospital. I'm not in the mood to discuss this. Let's say that place isn't meant for us. I'm not as careless as Christina. William's money is too risky to take. Better keep that for compensations after any future troubles." It was the 4th day since Coco got admitted to the hospital. Just before noon, Christina's tracker sent a message in the group chat saying Christina had finished borrowing from a loan shark and was on her way back. A few minutes later, the director personally came to Coco's room to tell me and Dad that Coco could be discharged. When William saw that we were chummy with the director as if we'd known each other forever, he seemed shocked, like he'd realized something big. After exchanging a few pleasantries with my dad, the director handed me a file. I opened the envelope in front of William and his mom, pulled out a few thin sheets of paper, and quickly went to the paternity results section. Looked it over 3 times. Honestly, it wasn't surprising. William and his mom didn't have a clue what was happening and were craning their necks to see from across the table. I gave them a knowing smile. "Dad, why don't you take Coco and Timmy back to yours? I'll pick them up later. William, Mom, you guys have been hustling these past few days. Now that Coco can leave, let's chill a bit. Lunch is on me." The director, staying with our pre-planned script, smiled and suggested to William and his mom, "Why not eat at our hospital cafe? I recently hired a chef who's great with Western dishes." Even Susan from our admin was raving about it. Once William, feeling flattered, agreed, the director suddenly switched the subject. "However, this afternoon there's a big staff meeting. Dr. Wong, you won't be able to join us for the meal." I went with Mary and a hurried Christina to the cafe the director mentioned. Mary was awkwardly fumbling with her silverware, trying to make small talk. "You know, trying these Western dishes once in a while, they're not bad." I leisurely enjoyed the chef's starters, giving her a half-hearted reply. "Mandy, when did you get to know the director?" "Before William joined M Group." Mary's smile was fading, her eyes wavering a bit as she asked, "And the stuff the director gave you, what's that about?" "Oh, you're curious? You should take a look." I suddenly got excited, put down my fork, pulled the A4 papers out of my bag, and placed them next to her. As she was about to read them page by page, I interrupted, "Go straight to the highlighted part." I leaned back against the booth sofa, relishing Mary's reaction. The papers seemed to weigh a ton. Mary was glaring at them, her hand shaking like a leaf. Christina finally started to feel uneasy and asked, "Mandy, what are you guys talking about?" I gave her a smile without replying. She leaned over to her aunt, trying to sneak a peek at the documents. "Is this a paternity certificate?" Seeing the title, she was shocked, eyes wide open, and then she asked with a stunned voice, "Coco and Timmy aren't my brother's kids?" Her eagerness to see me fail made me laugh at her naivety, and I couldn't help but throw her a look of pity. Without getting an answer from me, she went back to the papers. In no time, practically all the color drained from her face, leaving it even paler than her aunt's. With a dramatic gesture, she snatched the certificate, slammed it on the table, and accused me, Mandy, you're too much. You faked this, trying to ruin me? Just because you know the director doesn't mean you can forge these so easily. Don't listen to her, it's all a setup. I took out my phone and sent a link to Mary. Mary, check your phone. Open the link I sent and see how your son and his sidekick have been playing you. Mary seemed to have lost the ability to speak, following my instructions robotically. I shared recordings and videos of William and Christina plotting behind Mary's back, seizing opportunities when she was either out running errands or in the kitchen. Christina grabbed Mary's phone, frantically trying to close the video, turn off the phone. Too bad, her efforts were in vain. Once the file was opened, it was engineered to keep playing until the battery died. Christina raised the phone, intending to smash it. Mary firmly gripped her hand, deliberately reclaiming her phone. Aunt will kill me once she finds out. Don't worry. We'll take a step at a time. When you're pregnant, Mom won't have a choice. The recording kept tormenting Mary. Aunt, it's not true. Really, trust me, trust your brother. It's not what it seems. This is all Mandy's doing. Haven't I been your niece for over a decade? Don't let her come between us. Despite Christina's tearful pleas, Mary wasn't a fool. The harsh truth was right in front of her. The kids she thought were her late brothers? Not even close. She prided herself on upholding family honor, but this? This was a huge embarrassment. Diners were starting to notice our spectacle, pointing and whispering. William called right then. Knowing what he wanted to say, I immediately told him, come to the cafe. Mary had this empty, terrifying look. Her right hand, holding the knife, was trembling, tapping against the porcelain dish making a sharp sound. Realizing it was now or never, Christina tried to hide next to her purse on the booth farthest from Mary. Part of me almost didn't want to disrupt this calm before the storm moment. Christina, no need to be scared. How about telling us where you were this morning? On hearing this, Christina clutched her purse tighter, looking at me like I was a demon. Don't want to answer? Okay, then tell me, knowing you and William aren't related by blood, what made you think you could drag my family into your mess and act like they're your shield any longer? Christina shrunk away from my gaze, refusing to speak. Suddenly, her eyes lit up, and she shouted, brother, towards someone not too far away. She saw William like he was a savior, but she didn't realize that William himself was in deep trouble. William walked over in big strides. He didn't even have time to sit down before he bent over, whispering anxiously in my ear, Mandy, you're close with the dean. Help me out, say some good words for me. I did take hundreds of thousands from a pharmaceutical rep, but I'm ready to return it all. If he fires me, I'm done for. The dean had just announced in a staff meeting that William would be fired due to misconduct and breaking the rules. Overwhelmed with shame and panic, he hoped I'd agree to help him out, not even noticing the weird vibe at our table. William, maybe you should listen to what your mom's phone is playing, I suggested. He paused for a couple of seconds, stood up straight, and looked at me in shock. Mandy, have you been spying on us? He asked, tears streaming down his face as he gripped my shoulders, pleading, I was wrong, it was a moment of madness. I'll send Christina back to her hometown, she'll never appear in your life again. Help me, Mandy. I can't lose this job. Christina stood there, speechless and in disbelief, mumbling, brother? You're going to abandon me? No one paid her any mind. I chuckled at William, why would I help you? Your job was my doing from the start. Now, I don't want you in that position anymore, so you better step down. Mary, realizing I'd just pulled the rug from under her son's career, finally chimed in, Mandy, please don't do this to William. It's all my and Christina's fault. I'll take Christina away and make sure she won't meddle with you and William again. Mary still had the nerve to call herself my mother, but I couldn't even bother to look her way. William, did the dean only point out the small bribe you took? Do you even know how you got that promising future? About 6 months ago, I noticed you seemed out of it for a long while, always envious of your classmates working at Susan's company. I figured the stress of your public job was too much, so I had an in with Susan. I asked the dean to hire you away from there in a way that wouldn't hurt your pride. Little did I know, your stress wasn't from work. By then, you had just started with Christina, stayed up all night, and inevitably dozed off at the operating table the next day, causing a young girl to die from your negligence. You panicked because she only had her nearly 80-year-old great-grandfather as a relative. You thought you could fool him easily, provided you came up with a decent excuse and paid everyone around enough hush money. But where would you get the cash? Certainly not from me. Coincidentally, Christina knew a guy from her poker games whose husband was a high-ranking pharma rep. As long as you played ball with him, money wouldn't be an issue. Do you think getting fired from Susan's is the worst that's gonna happen? William, you should be going to jail. Mandy, I'll return it all, I swear. I'll even compensate the girl's family. Just don't call the police. Think of the 3 years we've been together, and for Coco and Timmy's sake. If I go to jail, how can they ever hold their heads high? What about background checks for future jobs? It's funny how you didn't think of the kids while doing all this dirty business, and now you want to use being their dad as a shield. If I let you off the hook, it's them who'd have to bear the shame. And about returning the money, where would you even get that? You haven't heard? Your mistress gambled all your dirty money away. Just this morning, she took a usurious loan of $500,000 in both your and your mom's names. Your IDs are still in her purse. Check it yourself if you don't believe me. Mary practically clawed Christina's bag from her grip, leaving marks on her hand, and dumped all its contents on the floor. Christina's makeup, keys, phone, and 2 IDs that weren't hers scattered out. A police car stopped on the main road a few hundred meters from the restaurant. Seeing this, Christina quit pretending. Mandy, you were just born lucky. Without that, we'd be able to ruin you. Since you've discovered what William's done, I guess I won't escape either, but fine. I'll serve my time. Once I'm out, William, you traitor, I won't let it slide. The good days you're hoping for won't come easy. Mary had been struck dumb by all the drama but suddenly snapped up off the couch, pinning Christina, who was spewing threats to her son, down. 2 security guys, who were pretending to be customers next door, quickly moved to shield me, backing us up together. Through the gap between the 2 large men, I saw 3 officers rushing over, dragging blood-covered Mary off of Christina. 2 good Samaritans jumped in to attend to Christina, who had her throat cut. William, resembling a ghost, just watched as his mother burst out violently, staring blankly at the knife lodged in his mistress's chest. Susan and David were slower than the officers, arriving at my side after Mary was restrained. Susan, her hands covered in icy cold sweat, held mine tight. You all right, Mandy? She asked. I'm fine, Susan. She wasn't after me. You nearly gave me a heart attack. Now that I know you live daily with these maniacs, it makes it hard to breathe. Mary, her hands pinned by the police, continued to scream and curse insanely. Brats, whores, I raised you for over a decade, and this is how you repay me. I'll not only kill you but also that slut of a mother of yours. I want you both dead. William, with a blank stare, suddenly focused on us. After 2 seconds, he recognized Susan. He probably finally figured it out. Losing his job, the fallout with his lover, exposing Christina's true background, driving his mom crazy, every step was my meticulously planned revenge. He charged at me in a rage but was pinned to the ground by 2 big bodyguards. He flailed on the floor, his face red and features twisted. Mandy. You lured my mom into murder. You're the murderer. Don't think Susan's got your back means you can sleep easy. The minute I'm out, I'll make sure you suffer. Christina was dead. David made it clear from the beginning. What Christina did to Coco wasn't enough to be a crime. Even if we sued, we could only get a small civil compensation. So, our plan was to gather evidence of Christina stealing a large sum from me. Getting her jailed for theft was a roundabout way to get justice. At first, David tried to trace Christina's channels for selling stolen goods but found nothing. She truly thought the luxury items Susan and my dad gave me were cheap knockoffs I bought, so she felt they couldn't fetch much and didn't bother selling them. She passed them off as genuine, giving them away gradually to a card-playing friend she wanted to impress. And this friend's husband was the same medicine rep Christina introduced to William. David followed the trail and easily collected evidence of William's crimes across 3 cases, reporting it to the cops as fast as he could. Little did I expect things to turn out like this. I just wanted Christina and William to have a falling out, hate each other, and keep fighting once out of prison. But Christina's aunt, who raised her, ended her life mercilessly. Mary committed murder in a public place, facing a life sentence or even the death penalty. William faced charges for medical misconduct, bribery involving non-government staff both ways. 3 crimes combined. David would work things out to get him the longest sentence possible. The one who nearly cost my daughter her life was gone. Mary, at best, would spend her twilight years behind bars. William was thrown in jail, his future ruined. The only shame was, the young girl who died on William's operating table had no relatives left to see William brought to justice. Leaving the police station, Dad drove while Susan and I sat in the back, taking care of Coco and Timmy. Peter grumbled, "How did William get off the easiest? He'll be out in a few years." "Mandy, why don't you move in with us?" "Just thinking William has a release date gives me the chills," said Dad. As Susan played with Coco, she casually said, "Making sure he doesn't get out is easy, right? Just have him get into trouble right before he's released each time, and he'll never get out." Peter was shocked by Susan's thinking and stammered, "Wife, that's not right, don't do anything illegal." Susan laughed and denied it, "I'm messing with you, Peter. Look how nervous you got." But as she joked with Peter, she turned her head and gave me a meaningful look. I smiled back, understanding exactly what she meant. I knew William would never see freedom again.